comment on the book will point out few motives or few elements of the whole enterprise, which is ecotheology. I would like to start with a remark that the quality of theology in general has always mattered and continues to matter for culture and civilization as a whole. The absolute or the ultimate is at the heart of culture, especially Western culture. The themes that theology addresses are fundamental. They are important not only for understanding the shape of our current social institutions, the course of political processes, many literary or artistic works, but above all for understanding who human beings are. And theology is actually very important for this understanding of human beings, who we are as humans. For this reason, the crisis or weakness of theology affects other spheres of culture, and we are living precisely in a situation of crisis of theology, which is linked to the crisis situation of Christianity throughout the West. Moreover, it can also be said that the crisis is the mode of the existence of Western culture in general. In such a situation, theology certainly must actively seek its place again and again. The ecological crisis may be an opportunity to recover the position and place of theology in culture. And so Father Jarosław Babiński's monograph is thus very much in line with the search for a theology relevant to important contemporary issues. In my presentation, I will point to, as I said, to a few threads, few motives of this monograph that I would like to highlight. The question of value first. It is very important to note that solving environmental and ecological problems is significantly linked to the sphere of values. The environmental crisis has its origins primarily in the set of values currently accepted and lived by humanity. And this is very much connected with the views eschatology says. We need to look deeply into what values we recognize and how they determine our behavior. The ecological and climate crisis is not the same technical or economic problem as it is often portrayed. It is first and foremost, of course, an axiological problem, and even more eschatological problem actually are in the background, I think. Our attitude towards nature largely depends, of course, on our knowledge of nature, but also on the kind of values we attribute to it. Many of the values attributed to nature can only exist by relating nature to the existence of human being, and even more to the question of the existence or not existence of God, and what he proposes us after our death, in his kingdom, after our the world will finish. Therefore, although nature is a carrier of values itself that could not exist without it, a perspective that does not take into account not only human being, but above all God and his future offered to humans and to the world would certainly impoverish nature itself. What is needed, therefore, is to harmonize the theological and humanistic perspective with the demands of the pro-ecological attitudes. Theology certainly has the resources to do so, which it should use creatively. As Father Babiński rightly writes, the humanistic, philosophical, and theological thought formulate arguments that make it possible to oppose the instrumentalization of human attitudes towards nature, the reductionist treatment of relations between men and the world, to arouse in people a deeper consciousness of responsibility for their behavior, especially with regard to ecological issues, referring to fundamental values, and of the quote from Father Babiński. So that's the first my point. Question of values and dependence. These values very much depend on what we think about eschatology here. And eschatology is one of the most important chapter of this book. Second thing is I would like to highlight is the need for spiritual motivation. As we remember, Pope Francis writes in Laudato Si, the ecological crisis is a call to a profound inner conversion. So an ecotheology that is deepened and well grounded in the Bible and the tradition of the Church has an important role in preparing the ground for the ecological conversion of Christians, especially Christians, say, because not even other people, but Christians. In addition to many different groups, there is also a group of committed Christians and people of prayer who need specific communication about the ecological crisis, communication that is deeply embedded in a Christian or even better Catholic theological, biblical and spiritual context. With Christians and people of prayer under the pretext of realism and pragmatism often deride concern for the environment. Others are passive, reluctant to change their habits and become internally incoherent. They therefore lack the ecological conversion that involves developing all the consequences of their encounter with Jesus in their relationship with the world around them. So that's the words, end of the quote from Laudato Si. So ecotheology as a holistic view of the Christian message, as it relates to creation, has the potential to win over many devout Catholics and to make us, Father Babiński writes, convinced participants in pro-ecological actions and ally in struggle for a common future. So ecotheology is very important to build this involvement of the Christian in the ecological enterprise, action from nature. Because one of the main tasks of an ecologically oriented theology is to convince all people of goodwill, but especially devoted Christians, devoted Catholics, to engage into pro-ecological act. People understand how their faith, how their beliefs connect to what is going on around to the ecological crisis, and to awaken a sense of solidarity with creation, awaken responsibility for creation, and a conscious commitment to environmental protection based precisely on a personal encounter with Christ, the Lord and Savior, as Pope Francis wants us to live this conversion. Another point which is connected with that one is concerns ecology seen as ideology. The development of a systematic ecotheology well grounded in the Bible and Christian tradition is important, especially in the context of traditionally minded Catholics. And in Poland we have a number of them. Usually in such crises there is a fear for succumbing to ideology, right? But ecology as ideology, to be for many people to be concerned with ecology would be tantamount to being ideologized. And I come across such a approach very often, even in among priests or even and especially among the very committed Catholics. The terms ecology, ideology, for many people are in Poland. We often see ecology as an ideology, something alien to faith and Christianity, linked to a leftist agenda and globalization that serves political control and so on. Of course, we forget that in Poland we often ideologize the Catholic faith. Catholicism becomes merely a close and well-protected set of ideas, judgments, norms, slogans, programs of one social group or institution, and is an expression of its needs and interests. And such Catholicism is detached from the life-giving sources of the gospel, only invokes the gospel. And this is a dangerous illusion, because we have the conviction that this is what Jesus wants and this is what the gospel is about. Catholicism as an ideology will violently defend itself against contamination by other ideas or even by other interpretations of its own ideas. Today, especially ecological ideas. So ecotheology has a great task, task, which is to help to receive these ecological ideas in the theology, and help theology to live more, to be a living experience and not ideology. Of course, we can say that theologians need to be very academic theologians, scientific theologians, but still theology is, of course, for the life of the church very important, and for the life of particular people. And we need to open theology in order to accommodate, especially ecological perspective. Theology in an ecological perspective becomes a necessary corrective to one-sided practice of theology, which becomes a kind of ideology. And one more thing I would add before ending my presentation is the aspect of interdisciplinarity. I think I began my presentation with a remark about the crisis of theology. We see in Poland that fewer and fewer people are being recruited to study theology. Theology programs are not being launched due to the lack of applicants, and recently I think 2 theology programs in Poland were not launched because of the lack of people or the lack of candidates for the programs. One way to make theology relevant and interesting is to make it more interdisciplinary. And recently I participated in a meeting where prominent theologians said that practicing theology in different contexts point to the fruitfulness of this is a fruitful strategy for theology to become more interesting for people, especially for young people. Indeed, as Father Babiński's theories and theses developed by various sciences, in order to gain a complete picture of the world, a dialogue between the natural sciences and the humanities is necessary, and in the context of issues related to the relationship between the bio and anthroposphere, a dialogue between ecology and theology is needed. That's a quote from Father Babiński's book. Ecology strives for an integral view. Ecotheology strives for an integral view of ecological issues. Hence, as Father Babiński points out, the need for interdisciplinarity, for the inclusion in the eco-dogmatic discourse elements from philosophy, history, and finally also natural sciences, but I think also social sciences and other kinds. So theology, which is in interaction with other sciences, maybe more lively and more interesting for people who would like to deal with in a constructive way with the problems of today, especially with the problems of ecology, of ecological crisis. And to end my presentation, I would like to point out to one thing more. I would like to conclude by highlighting also Father Babiński's accurate, though undeveloped in further reflection, remark on the subject of security. Father Babiński writes as follows: the necessary means of building ecological security is religion and its scientific expression, theology. So indeed, it is pointed out very often today that security, including ecology, is currently the most important topic in the world. This kind of security is related to the provision, safeguarding, and protection of the basic resources of the environment. And ecotheology as a theological reflection in the context of the ecological crisis has an important role to play in grounding this important need of contemporary humanity, need for security, the ultimate basis of creation, which is, of course, God creator, one who knows and loves all things. So thank you very much for your attention.
First of all, I wanted to present myself. I'm Father Pascal Habimana. I'm from Rwanda. I'm a member of Barnabite congregation. But now I work in Congo, DRC, since 2021. So I work in our seminary, and I teach theology, homiletics in Masnod University. So when Father Babiński asked me to say something about his book, Ecotheology, A New Approach, it was for me a very good thing, because when I read this book, I meet on it many solutions about problems which we have and we know we face off in our city here in Kinshasa, but not only in around in the world. So everyone knows that we have a crisis of ecology. Everywhere we hear at the radio, on television, and at the internet, we say climate change. But no one proposed or give some solutions of that problem. We know that we have many slogans, but those slogans cannot resolve problems which we have if we don't take first time to reflect on all those matters, and as Christians to find solutions or a truth solutions in the gospel or on the word of God. So the Ecotheology is a good book and can help everyone who wants to know how we can solve the problems which the world now have, the problems of climate change. Here in Kinshasa, we live in a big city where every year we lose many people about or because of climate change. Some, for example, when it rains, maybe I can say every month we lose here around 100 people. Last week we lost many people here in this city and many things because climate change. So eco-theology can help to understand the origin of problems and seek the solution, not like every those politicians people, but as Christians people. So we can seek solutions at the root of problem, because if we don't understand the root of problems, we cannot find a solution which is very durable. So this book, Ecotheology, helped me to understand the problem, but helped me also to understand the teachings of church about ecology, the different interventions of different popes since Paul VI, John Paul II, Benedict, and at the last, Francis, who spoke about ecology in his encyclic Laudato Si. But not only the teachings of church, but many theologians write different books or articles about that subject and tried to find a solution. But we have those many reflections, books, but implementing those different ideas, it's still now a big problem. So this book, I think, can help the church today or different theologians or others peoples, because ecotheology is an interdisciplinary subject. It means every subject can find something in this book in the way to find solutions of those different matter ecologicals. So I thanked so much Father Babiński, who tried to take this subject and to write it not only to write it, but he did many research, because when we look references which he cited, there are many. So he reads many books, many articles in order to write this book. So I think this book is very important and is something which can help not only today but even in the future, because now we see the consequences of the ecological crisis, but we didn't take time to find methods which are very practical in order to resolve that problem. I know that not only Christians can find solutions of that crisis, but if we take our time to do what we must do and to teach others how they can understand first the problem of that crisis, or how they can understand the causes of that crisis, and after we teach them how we can do in order to find solutions together. I think this book could be not only translated in English or in Polish, but in other different languages in order to be known around the world, around different countries. Maybe I will ask after Father Babiński if I can begin to translate it in French, because here where I live, we speak French, and at my university, we teach in French. So that book, which is in English, many people cannot read it and cannot understand what he said on it. But if we translate it in other language like French, maybe in Italian, or others, Spanish, and so on, could be very important things. So I think I thank Father Babiński, because he helped us to understand well the origins of that matters, but he helped us even to understand how we can find solutions, like as Christians people, but also as theologians, how we can help others to face that problem, which is very important in our days. So I think this book is very, like I said, important, and could be very expanded in different areas, so to be known and to be taught and help others to know this problem, especially here in our context. I think ecotheology is a very important subject because we have many matters from that crisis of ecology, from that crisis of ecology. So I think we cannot only, as he said, not only think about ecology as nature or animals, but we must think about that relation which exists between humanity and creation. Because if we think about creation without human, it cannot help to find solutions. So thank you very much, Father Babiński, and I think that book will continue to help us and maybe to help others and our church to help people and our country, different countries, to seek solutions about ecological crisis. Thank you.
Okay. Start. I started the stopper. Okay. Thank you very much. I felt very responsible for the biblical part as a biblist, for the biblical part of the book. But my reflection will go two ways. Firstly, the biblical, which is, I have to say, is a great deal of material is basing on the biblical references. So I was happy to read it. And the second is my general reflection over on the book itself. In the conclusion, we read this monograph has been planned to be kind of skeleton, showing the possibility of creating an. Can you hear me, by the way? Okay, it's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Of creating an integral vision of ecological issues in theology, which is to become a starting point for exploring the indicated topics as well as for reflecting on new ones, which is perfectly fine. And I think this task was fulfilled with exhaustively. I would say that my first point is I was surprised how many multi-layered book we have at hand, and it's crossing the boundaries of the many disciplines. I would say the vast biblical material, then obviously theology and philosophy. And actually, I just thought afterwards that theology and ecology, this crossing of these two disciplines, is a great subject, huge subject. So it's very difficult, I think, to find the person who is very competent at it, who could be competent at it. So we are obviously is it skeleton. The book is skeleton, but it's more than we could expect it after such a book, which is interdisciplinary and actually quite surprising for me, because I never thought that the subject of ecology was a topic in the documents from over the century in our church. So this is surely something that we have to reflect on. Firstly, I'll just go to maybe in some details on the biblical part, which is interesting. The Bible obviously is not a science book. There was the famous quotation from Galileo: "The Bible teaches how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go," which is true to some degree, but not totally. And I remember the reflection of Father, one of the greatest professors nowadays at Biblicum, Jean-Louis Ska, who said that we ask some questions on the Bible, but for example, ecology, which were not a subject of reflection 200 years ago, and even more than that. So we have to be very cautious in taking such issues and trying to have the answer, the biblical answer, on our currently important issues like ecology, for example, because ecological thinking was not a topic at those times. So, but nevertheless, we can receive some answers, obviously. But for example, I remember because the great part of the book on the biblical reflection concerns the Genesis 1 and 2, so the creation of the Word, obviously, the two stories about it. For example, even the first verse of the Bible, Bereshit bara Elohim, so at the beginning God created heaven and earth. So I would say it's not necessary. I just relata refero. I'm just saying just repeating what Jean-Louis Ska said once. He said it's not necessary a proof that the creation was ex nihilo, because Bereshit, it just can be translated when the God created heaven and earth. Obviously, the concept itself, it is present in the Bible, and it is also in the book about the second Maccabees. I don't have now this quotation, but who speaks this verse that speaks explicitly about the creation from nothing. But this is the Greek concept, not the Hebrew one. So it is in the Bible, but not. I give this example to say that we have to be cautious regarding ecology and our current issues. And then, obviously, the Bible doesn't speak explicitly about ecology. However, responding a bit to Galileo, the Bible teaches how to go to heaven, not how the heavens goes, perhaps. But the Bible, the biblical writers, did know how the earth goes. Obviously not at the planetary ranges, but at the pragmatic ranges of sower who sows, waits for the seeds to grow and reaps and harvests. The Hebrews knew how to grow vineyards and olive trees. They knew how to prepare wine to gladden the human heart and oil to make the face shine, as the Psalms says. And they knew to let land lie fallow on Sabbath. Abraham and Lot, and later Jacob and Esau, dispersed their flocks and herds because the land could not support both of them living together. So to say, the Hebrews worried about livestock tramping and polluting riparian zones, which is in Genesis and in Ezekiel as well. Residents on landscapes live immersed in the native range ecology. So there is, so to say, we could say ecological thinking or way of acting, treating the earth. And we could say that rural peoples in ancient Palestine might have been better in contact with nature than most biological academics who sits in offices and laboratories. So they have this access to the nature, and they obviously they dealt with the nature in a very specific way. Even the law of jubileum, so the year when everything should be should rest, is a sign of it, that we treat in the Hebrew people treat the earth, the soil, with respect. And obviously, even the promised land, fertile and productive, is a gift from God. So it was treated as such. We could say that there is ecological approach to the nature in the Bible, maybe not as a command, but we can see this in the chosen people, in the chosen nation. So it makes me wonder that actually everything is, and I totally agree with Professor Jacek Poznański, who said that we are in need of this junction between theology and ecology, because it's a hotly debated topic. And I totally agree. And I think that, and this is my, so to say, more general reflection on the book, that everything, every human activity should be covered by theological thinking, even economy. For example, we say economy, oh, it's nothing to do with theology, but I'm totally against. Economy should fulfill the great virtue of Christianity, which is justice. So when we act in economy justly, it means it's according to the will of God. It's good. Obviously, the strategies, mechanisms, and so on are not a topic of our studies as theologians. But still, we have something to say, that economy should be just. And it's the same about ecology. We have something to say, and this the bunches of pages in the book. They deal with this topic, that we have to do lovingly, with respect, and with according to the God's plan on human being and on earth. And as Father Professor Babiński stresses many times, that even in the book of Isaiah, it's out of emphasizes the special power of God, which manifests itself in creation. And obviously not only Genesis 1-2, but many biblical passages talk about this important attitude toward theology. However, I would say, and this is obviously not allegation or drawback of this book, but I was just wondering, reading the praxeology, and I just put one quotation from Father Babiński. This does not mean, however, that the impact of negative factors, such as toxins, contamination of the biosphere, radioactive and electromagnetic radiation, noise, are not without impact on his health, on human health, and can be endured indefinitely and without risk. On the contrary, they have a negative impact on man's physical and mental condition. So I would say, in this regard, this practical issue, which are very, very important, and we have in this book the great distinction. I cannot remember the author of this concept, between ecology and ecologism, which is good distinction, very fruitful, I would say. But still, it's a very complex issue, because I'm thinking about not about the simple people, because everything could be ideologized. Every single truth can become ideology, which I think we have. It is the case with ecology. Maybe there are many examples, but I don't want to speak such a concretely now. But there is this threat to make an ideology of ecology, which is such a current issue, and so many politics are involved here, and there is this danger. And I would say something different, that in the Bible, and this is another reflection of Jean-Louis Ska, I have still time, Jean-Louis Ska, who said that reflecting on the law which is in the Torah, in the Pentateuch, for example, but not only. And he said, who is the addressee of this whole precepts of the law? And he said, probably not the people who couldn't read and who didn't have any kind of any chance to read those texts. It's for the judges, for the politics, so to say, for the people who have power. And basically, what is one of the main messages from the Bible: take care on the poor, all the people who are marginalized. And I would say it might be the same about ecology. Father Pascal is from Congo. There are cobalt mines in Congo. So, for example, we talk about electric cars. How wonderful, electric cars. And then we have exploitation of Congo because the cobalt is, I think, basically there. And that's the problem. And this is the real problem. That's not the problem of my personal attitude so much as the people who have power. And basically, I think that the many distinctions in this book and in general, they regard not the ordinary people, but basically, like in economy, not only ordinary people, so much as the people who has real power and who drive this world, so to say. And talking about electric cars, or I don't know, 30 years ago, diesel engine was on top. It was the wonderful thing. Now it's cursed. I cannot with my diesel. I cannot go to Berlin. I think to the center of the city because it's dangerous for the ecology. So I think this ideological threat is very, very vivid now, and that's why it goes beyond theology. As a theologian, I will not say anything specific about the cobalt mines in Congo because I'm not an expert. I cannot say that, but I can repeat and repeat. All the systems and ecology should be just. And there is a friend of mine, which is phytosociologist. So he's taking into account the environment and the relationship between the plants. And he's ecologist in the proper sense because he has PhD on this topic, lecturer, and so on. There is an ecologist, and ecology. It's not ideology, which is doing some strange thing on the street, for example, or in the museum with Van Gogh's picture, for example. But this is the real with PhD, with studies, with an expert. This is the real ecologist and ecology. So that's what I want to say. That yes, I agree with this book basically, Father, and congratulations, Father Babiński, Jarosław Babiński, for this book, which proves that we need this ecological thinking in the church, within the church. But it left, I think, the question open: how to do it, and especially with all these current issues, which are even dangerous, I would say, and not easy to judge. We have to be courageous, and with the Bible, we have all the wisdom of the church. We should speak out and have our own attitude toward contemporary issues. After all, I think that the book is really worth reading because of this interdisciplinary approach and huge biography. And as it was written at the end in the conclusions, it's there are many questions left open, and I think it's a good starting point for new reflection, new articles, and even I would say new biblical studies on the matter. Maybe that's.
Thank you very much, Father Wasiak, for your biblical reflection, but also very practical implementation issues, which which are also very important. I mean, this is the subject that can't be considered only theoretically, as we have this feeling that the problem is highly touching our life, everyday life. So the discourse is all around, I think. So so this book, although it's a scientific book and theological book, it's very close to everyday life somehow for everybody, because the issues are important and are really touching our life. Thank you very much for your reflections. Unfortunately, Father Professor Jaime Tatai just wrote at the beginning that he has problems to connect and didn't manage to connect. So we'll try to record his reflections and presentation afterwards, and to join it with your speeches to make one seminar. But if you have any comments or questions to each other, it's now the floor that is yours, and you can add something or ask each other. So you're welcome.
Me gustaría comentar brevemente este libro excelente, recién publicado por Jarosław Babiński, Ecotheology, A New Approach, un libro que viene de un contexto polaco y está hecho en referencia también al contexto europeo, pero que se abre al mundo y que aborda una temática muy importante, reciente para el mundo y para la Iglesia, en concreto la ecoteología, la reflexión teológica sobre las cuestiones ecológicas y las cuestiones ambientales. Es un libro muy interesante, estructurado en 4 secciones. Una primera, donde se habla de los orígenes de la ecoteología, ¿no?, como ciencia natural, luego como filosofía y finalmente también como discurso teológico. Y hace un recorrido muy sugerente sobre el magisterio y cómo las distintas intervenciones de pontífices y de miembros de la Iglesia han ido elaborando un pensamiento, incluyendo aquí, y esta es una parte original, la reflexión teológica que se ha hecho desde la Iglesia en Polonia, ¿no? El capítulo que a mi juicio es el más interesante de todos es el capítulo 3, titulado Ecodogmática, donde se abordan las cuestiones ecológicas desde la perspectiva de la exégesis, pero también desde la antropología, de la cristología y de la escatología. El cuarto capítulo es uno dedicado más a las consecuencias y a la dimensión ética de esta reflexión, ¿no? Bueno, brevemente, simplemente me gustaría presentároslo y recomendar su lectura, porque me parece un libro muy interesante, publicado por Peter Lang, y que quien pueda y tenga el tiempo y las energías, pues le recomiendo, porque puede completar magníficamente su formación teológica en estas cuestiones.